Very interesting. Samuel, you have something to add to this?
Yes, I have something to add to it. In that it is the fact that when we look at the population density of the world, we find out that Western Europe, okay, has more population density than any country in Africa. America, let's take, for example, state of Maryland, has more population density than any country in Africa. I will go back to Britain, which is in the island of the Great Britain, so-called Great Britain, in that it has more population density than any country in Africa. But we see that contrary to all these talk about overpopulation in the world, we do not have the leaders of this country advocating population control in Western Europe, America, or Great Britain. It is only in Africa where we have less population density. That is where the activity to control the population is taking place. Why? Why shouldn't we ask why? It started with the dream of Cecil Rhodes, a famous man himself. He now has scholarship all over this place called Rhodes Scholars, Rhodes Scholarship given to deserving people. Rhodes has the idea that the wealth of Africa actually do not belong to the African people. This might shock many Africans because they think that everybody is their friend. But he has that, it believes that he wanted to plant the flag of Britain, which meaning his own personal flag over Africa, so that all the wealth of Africa can belong to people who know how to use this wealth most. You see, his idea was that the African people do not know how to manage this wealth, and besides, if they know it, they are actually, inferior people anyway. And it is only the Christian civilizing people should spend this wealth. So we come to the idea now that if we can get, before I go forward, I should point out that Africa has 2/3 of the world's land mass. Although we will not know this by looking at National Geographic World Map using Mercator projection. But if you look at Peter's projection that shows the land size of every continent in the world, you'll find that Africa has the largest land mass. Number 2 fact is that Africa has the, how shall we say, the 2/3 of the world's mineral resources, okay, which the Umpai family has taken out of South Africa so far. And then we have the uranium, which is used for nuclear weapons. We have diamonds in Africa. But you see, so the effort to depopulate Africa has nothing to do with, the welfare of Africans. It has to do with the welfare of the elite few, not everybody now, elite few in the Western world who wants the wealth of Africa to belong to them to make wealth. It does, because if a country like Nigeria has too many people, okay, then they will have problem in the future negotiating contract about the wealth of Nigeria. But if you have less people to fight over the wealth with, then no problem. Then this wealth can easily be used for the purposes of General Electrics, for example, who are engaged in building defense weapons and nuclear capacities weapons. You see, so these are the major, the major effort to depopulate Africa. That is why the major effort to depopulate Africa is going on now. It has nothing to do with the interest of the Africans. Africa, I will repeat one more time, has less population density, any country in Africa, than a Maryland state, than a state, like Maryland. So it has nothing to do with the welfare of the Africans.
You're talking primarily now, when you speak of Africa, you're talking about Nigeria.
I'm talking primarily about Nigeria because Nigeria now has a population of about 100 million at the last count, probably growing. You see, Nigeria has petroleum, it has gold, a little gold, not that much. It probably has a little reserve of uranium too. But the problem that Nigeria, the special problem that Nigeria poses to the planners in the Western world, these elite few now, I'm not saying everybody, these elite few who are controlling the wealth, is that too many people. If you have too many people, then you are going to have less control over them. And there is no way you are going to be able to control somebody who is going to be the leader of that country, because then he might come to power and decide that, oh, the wealth of the Nigerians should be in the hand of the Nigerian people. That we cannot have. You see?
And who would you say that the influence is more outside of Africa rather than internal?
Oh yes, yes. The influence of I would say the influence of that as we have seen in Africa since the, let's say, 1874, 1875 Berlin Conference, where Africa was, was partitioned, by, with the people who took part were King Leopold of Congo and King Leopold of Belgium, who took over Congo and the natural resources of Congo, all right, and the British, who decided to protect the wealth of Nigeria against the Nigerians. You see, it's been going on since then. All right. So what we have today is that whenever we have elections, I will call them elections. Whenever we have elections or change of leadership in Africa, it has always been somebody who will look after the interests of the imperialists. Only today we now have the people there now looking after the interests of the contraceptive imperialists.
Well, then, are the people themselves aware of these? You have a government system similar to what we have, where the people elect and rule.
Correct. But you see, I think what the Africans have bought is the substance. Is they have bought the substance. They have not got the how shall we say, the actual control of the government. You see. You see, when you have, take for example, if Nigeria wants to borrow money, I'm using Nigeria because that's where I come from. You want to borrow money from the West, from the World Bank, it will have to do what the World Bank says, even though it doesn't need the money. You see, which means the economic control of that country is in the hand of the people who control the World Bank. The same thing goes with the educational purposes. Take, for example, when the University of Ibadan, the first university in Nigeria, was founded, the curriculum for history, philosophy, economics were drafted both in Great Britain and in Chicago. Which means everybody that has been educated in Nigeria since they found this independence have been, how shall we say, miseducated. Because if you see, you have people growing up having the interest of other people at heart instead of the interest of their own country. So you see, the psychological warfare that they talk about in the LA program did not start today. It has been going on before independence.